It is on, yeah. It's green. But I can't. Okay, there we go. Shabbat Shalom. If you are not aware of who I am, I'm Mathieus, and I will be directing the Torah portion this morning. Today, for this Shabbat, our Torah portion is Torah portion Emor, and that will be chapters 21 through 24 of Leviticus. I will read the first chapter, and then I will ask some of you guys to read. Chapter 21. Actually, first, let's pray. Father, thank you for today, your Shabbat. I just pray that you would bless this reading and that you would guide it and that you would bless our Shabbat and keep everyone safe, and that you would just be here with your presence, and that we could focus on you today, and that we would just make it all about you and remember that that's why we're here, to serve you and to worship you and to set apart this day. In Yeshua's name. And Yehovah said to Moshe, "Speak to the priests, to the sons of Aaron, and say to them, None shall defile himself for the dead among his people, except for his relatives who are nearest to him, his mother, his father, his son, his daughter, and his brother. Also his virgin sister, who is near to him, who has had no husband, for her he may defile himself. Otherwise he shall not defile himself, being a chief man among his people, to profane himself. They shall not make any bald place on their heads, nor shall they shave the edges of their beards, nor make any cuttings in their flesh. They shall be holy to their God, and not profane the name of their God. For they offer the offerings of Yehovah made by fire, and the bread of their God. Therefore they shall be holy. They shall not take a wife who is a harlot, or a defiled woman. Nor shall they take a woman divorced from her husband, for the priest is holy to his God. Therefore you shall consecrate him, for he offers the bread of your God. He shall be holy to you. For I, Yehovah, who sanctify you, am holy. The daughter of any priest, if she profanes herself by playing the harlot, she profanes her father. She shall be burned with fire. He who is the high priest among his brethren, on whose head the anointing oil was poured, and who is consecrated to wear the garments, shall not uncover his head, nor tear his clothes. Nor shall he go near any dead body, nor defile himself for his father or his mother. Nor shall he go out of the sanctuary, nor profane the sanctuary of his God. For the consecration of the anointing oil of his God is upon him. I am Yehovah. And he shall take a wife in her virginity, a widow or a divorced woman or a defiled woman or a harlot. These he shall not marry, but he shall take a virgin of his own people as wife. Nor shall he profane his posterity among his people, for I, Yehovah, sanctify him. And Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron, saying, No man of your descendants in succeeding generations who has any defect may approach to offer the bread of his God. For any man who has a defect shall not approach, a man blind or lame, who has a marred face or any limb too long, a man who has a broken foot or broken hand, or is a hunchback or a dwarf, or a man who has a defect in his eye, or eczema, or scab, or is a eunuch. No man of the descendants of Aaron the priest who has a defect shall come near to offer the offerings made by fire to Yehovah. He has a defect. He shall not come near to offer the bread of his God. He may eat the bread of his God, both the most holy and the holy. Only he shall not go near the veil or approach the altar, because he has a defect, lest he profane my sanctuaries, for I, Yehovah, sanctify them. And Moshe told it to Aaron and his sons and to all the children of Israel. And now could I get a volunteer to read chapter 22, verses 1 through 16?
And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, that they separate themselves from the set-apart offerings of the children of Israel, that they do not profane my set-apart name and what they set apart to me. I am Yahweh. Say to them, Any man of all your offspring throughout your generations who draws near to the set-apart offerings which the children of Israel set apart to Yahweh, while he has uncleanness upon him, that being shall be cut off from before me. I am Yahweh. Any man of the offspring of Aaron who is a leper or has a discharge does not eat the set-apart offerings until he is clean. And whoever touches what is rendered unclean by a being, or a man who has had an emission of semen, or a man who touches any swarming creature by which he would be made unclean, or any being by whom he would become unclean, even any of his uncleanness, the being who has touched it shall be unclean until evening, and does not eat the set-apart offerings, but shall bathe his body in water. And when the sun goes down, he shall be clean, and afterward eat the set-apart offerings, because it is his food. He does not eat that which dies or is torn by beasts, becoming unclean by it. I am Yahweh. And they shall guard my charge, lest they bear sin for it and die thereby, when they profane it. I, Yahweh, set them apart. And no stranger eats the set-apart offering. A settler with the priest, or a hired servant, does not eat the set-apart offering. When the priest buys a being with his silver, he does eat of it, and one who is born in his house does eat his food. And when a priest's daughter is married to a stranger, she does not eat of the set-apart offerings. But when a priest's daughter is a widow or put away, and has no child, and has returned to her father's house, as in her youth, she does eat her father's food, but no stranger eats of it. And when a man eats the set-apart offering by mistake, then he shall give a set-apart offering to the priest, and add 1/5 to it. And let the priest not profane the set-apart offerings of the children of Israel, which they lift up to Yahweh, or allow them to bear the crookedness of trespass when they eat their set-apart offerings. For I am Yahweh, who sets them apart.
Thank you. And could we get a reader for verses 17 through 33, the end of the chapter?
Adonai said to Moshe, Speak to Aaron and his sons and to the entire people of Israel. Tell them, when anyone, whether a member of the house of Israel or a foreigner living in Israel, brings his offering, either in connection with a vow or as a voluntary offering, and brings it to Adonai as a burnt offering, in order for you to be accepted, you must bring a male without defect from the cattle, the sheep, or the goats. You are not to bring anything with a defect, because it will not be accepted from you. Whoever brings a sacrifice of peace offerings to Adonai in fulfillment of a vow or as a voluntary offering, whether it comes from the herd or from the flock, it must be unblemished and without defect in order to be accepted. If it is blind, injured, mutilated, has an abnormal growth, or has festering or running sores, you are not to offer it to Adonai or make such an offering by fire on the altar to Adonai. If a bull or lamb has a limb which is too long or short, you may offer it as a voluntary offering, but for a vow it will not be accepted. An animal with bruised, crushed, torn, or cut genitals you are not to offer to Adonai. You are not to do these things in your land, and you are not to receive any of these from a foreigner for you to offer as bread for your God, because their deformity is a defect in them. They will not be accepted from you. Adonai said to Moshe, when a bull, sheep, or goat is born, it is to stay with its mother for 7 days, but from the 8th day on it may be accepted for an offering made by fire to Adonai. However, no animal is to be slaughtered together with its young on the same day, neither cow nor ewe. When you offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving to Adonai, you must do it in a way such that you will be accepted. It must be eaten on the same day it is offered. Leave none of it till morning. I am Adonai. You are to keep my mitzvot and obey them. I am Adonai. You are not to profane my holy name. On the contrary, I am to be regarded as holy among the people of Israel. I am Adonai, who makes you holy, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai.
Thank you. Do we have any comments about chapters 21 or 22? If not, could I get a reader for chapter where? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got a confession. I messed up. I should have read 2 Torah portions 2 weeks ago and last week's Torah portion last week. So we skipped the chapter. We skipped the Torah portion. It was my fault. So Mathieus has got us caught up to date. Okay. So thank you.
Yeah.
But what should have been done what I should have went over last week in Leviticus 18. In this chapter it talks about our admonition to be holy even as Yahweh is holy. This is where the concept and the quote, "Be holy even as I am holy," comes from Leviticus 18. And I just wanted to read the first few verses there. It kind of puts everything into context here of this Torah portion too. In Leviticus 18, in verse 1, Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, I am Yahweh your God. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, ye shall not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, ye shall not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances. But ye shall do my judgments, keep mine ordinances to walk therein. I am Yahweh your God." And he goes on to say, "Be holy even as I am." So the context is, I don't want you to do as the Egyptians did and as the people that possess the land of Israel currently do. I want you to do my commandments, my judgments. So when he's going through some of these statutes and rulings, we got to understand why he's giving us these. He's contrasting, this is what the Egyptians did, this is what the people in the land of Canaan are doing. I don't want you to do these things. This is how I want you to function as a holy people. So that's kind of the context. And so we don't always know what they were doing in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan. So the context is kind of important to understand what's going on. And then he repeats that in verse 18, 22, and 24, something we can very well connect with in our culture today, not in the body of believers, but in the world. "You shall not lie with mankind as with womankind. It's an abomination. And you shall not lie with any beast to defile yourself therein." And verse 24, "Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things, for in all these things the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you." So these were the things that he was warning Israel about, that they were doing in the nations around them. And then verse 18, 27, the same thing. He says, "For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled." And so that's kind of the context there. And then in chapter 19, he tells, Yahweh speaks to Moses and says, "Speak to the congregation of the children of Israel and say to them, for ye shall be holy, for I am Yahweh your God is holy. Ye shall fear every man his mother, his father, and keep my Sabbaths, for I am Yahweh." So just kind of puts this Torah portion into context a little bit.
Thank you.
As we looked at chapters 21 and 22 there, the thing that is going over and over is that without blemish. And when we step back, and are we bringing our best to God, right? No matter whether it's of ourselves, are we giving him our leftover time, or are we bringing our best time? Are we giving him the first fruits, the best of what we are raising, whether it's the herd or the flock? Are we giving him the best of ourselves? And that is true of the priesthood. It's true of the offerings. It's true of, and that's just circling that back around, there, he is very specific in what does that mean. But as we internalize that, are we coming to our King with the best? I guess.
Could I get a reader for chapter 23, verses 1 through 22?
Yehovah said to Moshe, "Tell the people of Israel the designated times of Yehovah, which you are to proclaim as holy convocations, are my designated times. Work is to be done on 6 days, but the seventh day is a Shabbat of complete rest, a holy convocation. You are not to do any kind of work. It is a Shabbat for Yehovah, even in your homes. These are the designated times of Yehovah, the holy convocations you are to proclaim at their designated times. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, between sundown and complete darkness, comes Pesach for Yehovah. On the 15th day of the same month is the festival of Matzah. For 7 days you are to eat matzah. On the first day you are to have a holy convocation. Don't do any kind of ordinary work. Bring an offering made by fire to Yehovah for 7 days. On the 7th day is a holy convocation. Do not do any kind of ordinary work." Yehovah said to Moshe, "Tell the people of Israel, after you enter the land I am giving you and harvest its ripe crops, you are to bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the Kohen. He is to wave the sheaf before Yehovah so that you will be accepted. The Kohen is to wave it on the day after the Shabbat. On that day you wave the sheaf. You are to offer a male lamb without defect in its first year as a burnt offering to Yehovah. Its grain offering is to be 1 gallon of fine flour mixed with olive oil, an offering made by fire to Yehovah as a fragrant aroma. Its drink offering is to be of wine, 1 quart. You are not to eat bread, dried grain, or fresh grain until the day you bring the offering to your God. This is a permanent regulation through all your generations, no matter where you live. From the day after the day of rest, that is, from the day that you bring the sheaf for waving, you are to count 7 full weeks. Until the day after the 7th week, you are to count 50 days, and then you are to present a new grain offering to Yehovah. You must bring bread from your homes for waving, 2 loaves made with 1 gallon of fine flour baked with leaven, as first fruits for Yehovah. Along with the bread, present 7 lambs without defect, 1 year old, 1 young bull, and 2 rams. These will be a burnt offering for Yehovah. With their grain and drink offerings, an offering made by fire is a fragrant aroma for Yehovah. Offer 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 male lambs 1 year old as a sacrifice of peace offerings. The Kohen will wave them with the bread of the first fruits as a wave offering before Yehovah. With the 2 lambs, these will be holy for Yehovah, for the Kohen. On the same day you are to call a holy convocation. Do not do any kind of ordinary work. This is a permanent regulation through all your generations, no matter where you live. When you harvest the ripe crops produced in your land, don't harvest all the way to the corners of your field. Don't gather the ears of grain left by the harvesters. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am Yehovah your God."
Thank you. And could we get a reader for verses 23 through 44? I can read it. Then Yehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, on the 1st day of the month, you shall have a Sabbath rest, a memorial, of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it, and you shall offer an offering made by fire to Yehovah." And Yehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Also the 10th day of the 7th month shall be the day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation for you. You shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire to Yehovah. And you shall do no work on that same day, for it is the day of atonement. to make atonement for you before Yehovah your God. For any person who is not afflicted in soul on that same day shall be cut off from his people. And any person who does any work on that same day, that person I will destroy from among his people. You shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It shall be to you a Sabbath of solemn rest, and you shall afflict your souls on the 9th day of the month at evening. From evening to evening you shall celebrate your Sabbath. Then Yehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles, for 7 days to Yehovah. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it. For 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire to Yehovah. On the 8th day you shall have a holy convocation, and you shall offer an offering made by fire to Yehovah. It is a sacred assembly, and you shall do no customary work on it. These are the feasts of Yehovah, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations. To offer an offering made by fire to Yehovah, a burnt offering and a grain offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything on its day. Besides the Sabbaths of Yehovah, besides your gifts, besides all your vows, and besides all your freewill offerings, which you give to Yehovah. Also on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep the feast of Yehovah for 7 days. On the first day there shall be a Sabbath rest, and on the 8th day a Sabbath rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, the boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook. And you shall rejoice before Yehovah your God for 7 days. You shall keep it as a feast to Yehovah for 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native Israelites shall dwell in booths, that your generation may know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yehovah your God. So Moshe declared to the children of Israel the feasts of Yehovah. Do we have any discussion points on chapters 23? Could I get a reader for chapter 24, 1 through 23?
Just a little comment on chapter 23. You know that last verse, verse 44, it says that Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feast of Yahweh. That's a big proclamation. That it is. These are the feasts for Israel. It didn't isolate just one tribe. It said these are for the Israel. So there's how many tribes in Israel?
12.
12. Okay. That's
Not
up
the
for
feast
debate, I guess.
of just the Jews, right? It's the feast of the Lord.
Yes. Okay. Leviticus chapter 24. And Yahweh spoke unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee a pure olive oil beaten for the light of the cause of the lamps to burn continually. Without the veil of testimony in the tabernacle of congregation shall Aaron order it from the evening unto the morning before Yahweh continually. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. And you shall order the lamps upon the pure candlestick before Yahweh continually. And thou shalt take fine flour and bake 12 cakes, therefore 2/10 deals shall be in one cake. And thou shalt set them in 2 rows, 6 in a row, and upon the pure table before Yahweh. And thou shalt put pure frankincense upon each row, that it may be on the bread of a memorial, even an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. Every Sabbath he shall set it in order before Yahweh continually, being taken from the children of Israel by an everlasting covenant. And it shall be Aaron's and his sons, and they shall eat it in the holy place, for it is a holy unto him, the offerings of Yahweh made by fire by a perpetual statute. And the son of an Israelitish woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the children of Israel, and his son of the Israelitish woman and the man of Israel strove together in the camp. And the Israelitish woman's son blasphemed the name of Yahweh and cursed, and they brought him in unto Moses. And Moses and his mother's name was Sheluomith, the daughter of Debri, of the tribe of Dan. And they put him in a ward, that the mind of Yahweh might be showed them. And Yahweh spoke unto Moses, saying, Bring forth him that hath cursed without the camp. Let all that heard him lay their hands upon his head, and let all the congregation stone him. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, Whosoever curseth his God shall bear his sin. And he that blasphemeth the name of Yahweh shall surely be put to death. And all the congregation shall certainly stone him, as well as the stranger, as he that is born in the land. When he blasphemeth the name of Yahweh, he shall be put to death. And he that killeth any man shall surely be put to death. And he that killeth a beast shall and make it good, beast for beast. And if a man cause a blemish in his neighbor, he is also done, so shall it be done to him. Breach for breach, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. As he hath caused a blemish in a man, so it shall be done to him again. And he that killeth a beast, he shall restore it. And he that killeth a man, he shall put to death. He shall have one manner of law, and as for well of the stranger, and as for one of your country, for I am Yahweh your God. And Moses spoke to the children of Israel, and they shall bring forth him that cursed out of the camp, and stone him with stones. And the children of Israel did as Yahweh commanded Moses.
Thank you. Something that I notice here is, you shall have the same law for the stranger and for one from your own country, for I am Yehovah your God. And I've noticed a similar phraseology occurs in other places in the Torah where it says, you'll have the same law for the native and for the sojourner. So I just would like to point that out. I thought that was good. Do we have any comments on chapter 24? That is the end of the Torah portion. And I will, oh, okay.
This is just a real quick thing, and I have no insight on this per se. I just found this interesting, is how many times he says, I am Adonai. It's crazy. It's like every other sentence. It's almost
Yeah.
like, so I don't know if anyone else had any thoughts on that. I've heard some other stuff about it before, but each year this circles around. I'm like, wait, what was that about again? So I don't know. That was one thing I noticed.
Yeah, I did notice that as well. I'm not sure. I mean, it is his holy name, so he really wants us to know that that's the one true God. Yeah. Does anyone have any comments on that?
I think when he's saying that too, he's also establishing his authority.
Yeah, that's good.
My comment to that would be more of that obviously these very much they are his, and it is emphasizing, if do these things and you will draw near to me.
Kind of going back to the beginning of the Torah portion, as I mentioned, last week's would have covered the reason that Yahweh established a lot of these guidelines is because these were some of the things that were going on in Egypt, the customs, and also in the land they were heading to, that God did not want them to follow suit. And from Zondervan's Illustrated Bible, they give a little bit of context here, and in God's laws, we see here that to approach him, the high priest had a higher standard to live by because they were in charge of the holy things. They were in charge of the protocol in the temple and the tabernacle, and it was very important that they defile not the tabernacle. And we know that anything that touched death would be a defilement, and so there were a lot of restrictions for that. But in the ancient world, in Egypt and in the Mesopotamian theology, this gives a little bit of insight to that. We know that a priest must not make himself ceremonially unclean. Ancient Near East priests, specifically described in Leviticus, were required to be ritually pure through avoiding impurities or undergoing purification rituals before approaching their deities. Whereas non-Israelites, the other nations, they feared demonic impurities, which could even threaten deities. But for Israel, the sources of impurity were human beings and some kinds of animals. The holiness of Israelite priests demanded that they avoid defilement from dead persons and such. And in Mesopotamia, I have trouble with this, in Mesopotamian myth, impurity linked to domain of death is similarly restricted. There was a Rish Kadel, a divine queen of the underworld, cannot be with the holy gods who dwell above because she is impure. However, just as many ancient Near East people worshipped underworld deities, they could also worship their dead ancestors. So this is one of why Yahweh said that, to not fall into, the worship of the dead. By contrast to the Israelites, for whom death was a major disruption, the Egyptians believed that life continued after death, and therefore the realm of death was positive and holy. A hymn to the god of Osiris, who was king of the dead, contains the words, "Eternal Lord, who presides in the abyss, who dwells distant in the graveyard, and the son of Isis, who championed his father, holy and splendid is his name. Because death was holy to them, tombs were temples where the priest officiated." So their theology all centered around, death, and it was involved in the temples, and that's why Yahweh said, "You shall have no part of that." So that just gives a little context to that. Okay. And there was, in this concerning, a high priest, he could not have any blemish, and Jason kind of touched on internalizing that for us, that, when we come before him, we need to bring our best. Now, in ancient Egyptian mythology, there was an inscription of a priest, an Egyptian priest, and it shows him with one leg shorter than the other. So in their theology, their priests could be maimed, their priests could have deformities, and so, why does Yahweh mention that specifically? It goes back to, "You shall not do as the other nations did." So that was an interesting historical fact.
Yeah. Last night at our young folks event, we were talking about obeying even when sometimes the command might not make sense to us in the moment. And some historical and ancient contexts can sometimes shed light on that.
I have one more thought on the story that's just kind of seems to be stuck in there about the young man who was the son of an Israelite woman, but of an Egyptian father who strove with another Israelite man. I took a couple of things out of that kind of hit me. One, the same law applies to both the foreigner and the native born, right? So her name, Shelamith, means peaceful or peaceable. And so, but the Egyptian father, and so there's an aspect here that I took out of that is, as fathers, we are to train up our children to honor Yah in the most holy of ways. to then strive with an Israelite, and what seems, there's an implication here, at least in my mind, that the Egyptian father had not truly trained up his son to love the Lord his God with all his heart, mind, and soul, and thus was cursing him and bringing some of that Egyptian aspect to that. And what I see here is you got to get that out. Get that out of the camp, because we are going to have one law and we will honor. Thought it was interesting just that it really pointed at her name, and her name meant peaceable or peaceful.
Thank you for that. Well, if we don't have any more comments, John?
It may seem to us like there are no religions that worship the dead, but in Shintoism in Japan, and I've been to a Shinto shrine before, that is a religion that is primarily oriented toward worship of the dead, what is prohibited in this text. So they worship the dead principal warriors of their culture, and they would present an annual economic plan for the country to the Shinto gods every year before World War II. And the Christians in Japan participated in that, presented that plan at the Shinto gods. So after World War II, one of my professors was asked to be part of an evangelistic series, and he was told that the people who had formerly led the Japanese Christians in Japan would be part of it. And he knew that these were people who participated in the syncretistic worship of Shinto gods in Kyoto, Japan. Kyoto is the principal Shinto shrine in Japan. So his position was, if the Japanese Christian leaders who participated in this ceremony with the Shinto gods will publicly repent of their sin, I will participate. But if they will not, I will not participate. So the Japanese Christian leaders did not repent of their sin. When Billy Graham went to Tokyo for one of his rallies, he was unaware of that conflict that still existed in Japanese Christianity. And so he stumbled into it, and afterwards realized his unintended mistake. He said later in his adult life, near the end of it, he said, when someone asked what you would have done differently, he said, I would have studied more. So there are some unintended sins that we sometimes commit because of ignorance.
Thank you, John. Well, that is the end of the Torah portion, and I will conclude it with a prayer and bless our Father. Father Yah, thank you so much for allowing us to study your word. And as we go throughout today, I just pray that you would speak to each of us individually, and give us farther revelation on your word. I just pray that we could meditate on the things of you and not of the world, and to just lay the rest of our lives aside and to just rest today.